Hello, Marty. We are live on my end. Just let you know.
Shootings will continue as
What? Can you hear me, Marty? Hello? Oh, he can't hear me. I don't think he can.
Hey, what's up, Emmett? Can you hear me?
Hello, hello. Can you hear me?
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you fine. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. So I guess there was a recent debate about Trump consolidating power last night with Jake and Andrew. I guess somebody wasn't going to show up. I don't know if it was Jake or Andrew, but Tom Fullery had messaged me last night and said, hey, last minute change. I was wondering if you could come to a debate about Trump consolidating power. And I said, yeah, I'll do it in a heartbeat. I don't mind doing it. And then he messaged me back and says, oh, no, we don't need you, but we'll keep you as an alternate. And I said, okay, cool, whatever. I didn't know that this debate was going to happen. Then I saw that it was Jake and Andrew, and I was like, oh, so I guess I was going to take one of their places. So that was something that was going to happen. I was like, oh, okay. So when people tell me things like, are you not an extension of the Crucible? Things like this, I'm like, well, they call me anytime they need an alternate or a replacement. So what does that mean? Like, and then I'm Andrew's coach and his trainer. So that also is more implication. So I'm like, I don't know. I'm just speaking in light of current scandals that have happened. So,
Yeah.
but I'm going to step away from that for a minute because I don't want people to use more ammunition against the Crucible. So,
Yeah. We can talk about that. I was hoping we could talk about your debate with Destiny, and we can move back into it if you want
yes.
to. Let me introduce you real quick
No,
to
the debate with Destiny is a good conversation.
Yeah.
That's a good conversation. I'd like to talk about that. Yeah.
Let me introduce you real quick. This is Mateo Reyes, IFBB. He goes as Mateo Reyes IFBB in X, I believe. And he has a channel that's called On the Edge on YouTube. It's linked on the bottom. So if you want to check him out, he's a debater. He's been debating adjacent to the Crucible for a while. He had a debate with Andrew on Sarah's show, but he's also been debating in Spaces and in some other places. I believe you're a former DEA agent, if I'm not mistaken, and you have been like a professional athlete for more than 10 years, 10 years plus at least, right? At least, right?
Yeah. I was in law enforcement for a very long time, and then I've been a professional athlete since 2013 when I turned pro. I turned pro in 2 world-class sports. But here's the thing, though. I was always passionate about one thing in life, and that's always been debates. So, like in law enforcement, whenever I got a direct order to do something and I didn't think it was morally just, I said no, and then it turned into a debate. In athletics, I was told, hey, we got to start trying this method. And then if I didn't like that and I thought I'd get injured training a certain way, guess what happened? A debate. So debate has been sewn in a lot of part of my life, especially now since it's the mainstay of what I do online. I love it.
Okay, yeah. We went through your debate. I went through the debate in this channel with Paige. We thought it was I thought it was an interesting debate. It was a very short debate. It was 20 minutes long. I thought it was going to be like a big format debate, like an hour or something like that. And then I realized it was something more of Jubilee kind of style. I have a bias against the moderator because I think he's dumb, which is fucking weak. Okay, so I'm gonna try to avoid that talking about him. But first of all, how do you feel during the debate? How do you think? Were you prepared? Were you feeling a little bit nervous? How do you feel about that?
I studied. I think that if you're not a little nervous before a debate, you're not doing your job, or you're not. It's like getting ready for a fight. So if I know I have a debate a week out or anything, it could be like a really stupid person. Here's the thing, Emmett. Like, we can't really underestimate really stupid people, because even broken clocks are right twice. I've debated really dumb people, and I'm sure you have, and they've said things or questioned things. You know, it just popped out. I'm just like, crap. That was a brilliant ass question that they asked. So that's the thing, though. You can debate smart people, and they make really stupid decisions, too. So I plan for the worst whenever there's a debate happening. So during the week of the debate with Destiny, I had 2 things in mind, right? Mind you, the moderator, we have to figure, okay, this is on their home turf. Yeah. And this person who's a moderator, I debated against him in the past. mind you. And not only have I done team debates against this person, but he's also moderated debates like the one where I had against Chuck in the past and Hollybots. I've debated them. And then it became a debate between me and Andrew versus Chuck and this guy who was a reporter. So I've debated against his people from his crew. Now I'm going back to his side. So we have to think, like, even in sports or even political debates, we have Democrats and Republicans. There's sides to everything, right? Mm-hmm. Now, me going over there, I was like anticipating a 2v1. Now, if people are saying, well, no, it's a moderator, they're supposed to be neutral. I never put it past anybody to use cheating tactics or to side with anybody. When it's your side, you have everything to gain from winning a debate. Yeah. And it's like, of course, and it's going to make me look worse if you beat me, and you're incentivized because it's your side, it's your channel. And to add insult to injury, I have Destiny, who Andrew Wilson has told me he's an S-tier class debater. He's no joke, and I will give it up to him. He's not an easy person to debate. One thing I anticipated was incessant gish galloping and fast speed talking, like, you know, the person who's auctioning off of something. So those are the two things I prepared for. Planning had to do with like research on January 6th and all the information. But he's probably the toughest debate person I've had to go ahead and face off. I will say that.
I was when we were looking at your debate, one of the things that stand out was that you didn't really went on into an opening statement when you were planting your. I have an echo from your side, real quick.
Hold on, real quick. Did it clear up now?
Hello. Yeah, it cleared up.
Okay,
so yeah, you didn't go into a direct opening statement. What you did was pretty much said, hey, what you said is kind of irrelevant, and you started with pretty much a cross-examination from the start. Was that like part of your strategy for the debate?
Well, one of the things was I didn't anticipate him not giving an opening statement. One of the things that people do, and the reason why I love giving opening statements is already it's imbalanced. Because I've never had a debate. This is the first time where I've had to give an opening statement and the other person doesn't, which puts the onus on me. So that's a little bit tough because let's say I'm debating you, right? It's me versus Emmett. You give me an opening statement. I'm looking for any ammunition you have in this opening statement. Like me and my corn debate versus Fatty, he gave nothing but ammunition, which sunk his ship. But with Destiny, he didn't give an opening statement. I was given nothing. Just giving him the opening statement and he gave me nothing. It was I've never had that happen before, so I was unprepared for that.
Well, yeah, he doesn't give you like the specific facts. What he does is pretty much paint a narrative, a statement. And I think this has been his debate strategy, especially with Gen 6 stuff. He's like, I might not be right on the facts, but I have the narrative on my side, and he will try to paint a narrative. And that's what he did the whole debate. He was like, I'm gonna go ahead and paint a narrative, and this is how I'm gonna try to convince people on what is the actual facts of the matter. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, that's a fair statement. That it was like he didn't give an opening statement, and he still didn't go into detail on his side. It was like he didn't want to give anything up, but just a narrative. You're exactly right about that.
There was one question that I thought you did commit a little bit of a blunder. This question was when he was telling, he asked you, like, do you think people came here because Trump called them? I remember Andrew being specifically vague on the answer. He was like, no, we don't know what the intentions of the people were there. Most of the people went there because there was a protest. People were going to be there. Some go there to just watch Trump talk. Some went there because they were like infiltrators. Some went there to do X. And you pretty much accepted that part of the Destiny narrative. What do you think about that?
I think that if I would have known, like in hindsight 2020, we have to understand that there was a lot of people that were already there. In the minority were committing violence. The majority of them were there for peace. So, I mean, I could have just leaned with that and just said, well, the majority of people were there for peace. They were there just to have fun. They didn't protest. It was only a small amount of people that were violent, but we don't know and we can't perceive them to know their minds of why they were there. I mean, I would have reformatted the response way differently, but I just ate it. I accepted it. You're right.
Yeah. I'm saying this because he went through that answer that you gave over and over and over again. If you actually listen to the debate, you went trying to move forward past one statement, and he just came back and he was like, "Oh, but you agreed to this." They were called for Trump. They were there for the insurrection. So I thought it was a bit of a blunder. You just accepted that. I was really happy with how you presented some of the facts. You went on and he was like asking about the stuff that happened, and you were like, "Hey, this happened. This is the reason." And you try to put the onus on him of, "Hey, tell us what exactly is the direct relationship between what the violence that happened and Trump." And even though he always walked like away from that, he went into his narrative ideas after. And I thought you did really well there. That was pretty much your strategy during the debate, right? You wanted to put the onus on him to show that evidence.
Yeah, because we have to think about motivation. He never answered this. If you notice this, he kept running from this. He not only ran for motivation, but he didn't want to tie any connection. I asked him, what was your connection? Can you give me a logical entailment of like how you could tie Trump and violence together? He couldn't do that. He just said the closest he ever got at it was he said, well, he told him to fight, fight, fight. Well, politicians say this all the time. This could have been for anything else. And he was like, what do you think that the people meant fight? What do you think they meant by this? Well, we fight in different ways. We fight through the way that we march, the way that we vote. And that's when I went on this diatribe about that. But it was like he still wasn't answering for the definitional response of like what I wanted was a definitional reason or some logical entailment of how it's an insurrection, because we have a riot. We know what a riot is, but an insurrection definitionally is different. I wanted him to accept the riot part of this. And then if he would have said, yeah, it's a riot, cool, but is that an insurrection? If you can't tell me it's an insurrection, we're arguing about a riot, not an insurrection. And there's a distinction between the two.
I was talking to Paige, and one of the things that Destiny tried to do is like, well, what do you think an insurrection is, and how can we define it? And my answer to that would be like, well, if there's any kind of communication between the people that got indicted, because there were a lot of indictions, and there was a lot of evidence, if there were communications from them to the Trump team indicating that they wanted some kind of violence act, which I don't believe exists, that would be like a proper indication of. Instead, what happened in the debate is that they got a little bit lost. What do you think about that?
I think that I should have just did the same thing that he did, because what he did was he kept backpedaling and running away from the fact of the definition of me talking about, well, my form of definition is it's a treasonous act to overthrow the government through violence, through communication with the president and these people. In this situation, to me, definitionally, that's what insurrection would be. It wouldn't be like people got together because they were pissed and then burned a car or did anything like that. Well, like you said, there has to be communication. And also another stipulation is it has to be treasonous in the effort to, I would say, motivation has to be overthrowing the government or some system. And he couldn't ever tie any of this together. I kept going back to this and he wouldn't answer this. As you saw in the debate, he wouldn't answer this. He wouldn't answer the ties or if there's any communication. He tried to tangle me up on the timing because Trump's response was delayed, but that was even faulty because, oh, okay, he was late, but does that giving him any attention for sparking this off? Was there direct communication to inspire this for anything treasonous?
The other thing that I was thinking of is, well, if you listen to him, he's like, well, he's talking to lawmakers and lawfare, and they're trying to figure out a strategy, and that's the whole plan. But if you're gonna do any kind of force, you're gonna use any kind of force to do a proper insurrection, as people would call it, why would you need lawmakers? Most of the time, you just get in there and do it. You know, it's like, well, this is the force, and we're gonna do it. That's the whole point of the uses of force.
And then if you think about the other scandals that Trump's been involved, the corn star thing, everything else. Just remember, all these things have one thing in common. The receipts, text messages come out, information comes out, things spill, things leak. No president is above reproach from leaking internally documents from the inside or anything else. No communication between Trump and these people were leaked at all. Do you think that's a coincidence, or are you just thinking that he just had a perfect record during this supposed insurrection? So it's like,
I'm not
but I
even
didn't
with
want to
the
go down that road.
no,
either.
yeah, I'm not even with the Trump team. Like, it would be like I don't even think they exist. Like, I don't think exists a channel of communication with the Trump team with these people, especially the people that committed some kind of violence or were indicted. So at that point, how can you actually say that this is some kind of plan from Trump directly to supposedly overthrow the government? I wouldn't know.
Well, Emmett, here's the nail in the coffin. This is the thing that made me laugh. It wasn't until the very end of the debate when I saved it for the debate. I didn't want to say it early because I'm so used to doing long form. I've done debates on Raging Tomato, Fatty, everywhere. Even Abe Degas, I've done mini debates on his platform as well, too. And I plan on going on a modern debate and doing all these other things. But here's the thing, though, Emmett, I'll point out to you. Remember at the end of the debate when I asked him, what's your definition of an insurrection? What was his response? He said, oh, no, I'm good. I'm done.
Yeah.
Because that's what he was running the whole time. And I'm just like, well, if this was an hour-long debate we're supposed to do, I'd consider this a rage quit. But I'm like, okay, this is the very thing you're running from. And then you said, I'm done after that.
Yeah,
I tried not to laugh.
That was actually kind of funny because you say that and immediately he says, I'm done. And, Wick jumps in. Yes, master, I'm gonna finish this for you. Yes. We can't have it any longer.
Yeah, that's literally what he did. He came in and tried to save his woman, and that's the same thing that happened. But it's like, I don't understand. I think this is like feminism at its finest. One woman saving another woman. I'm like, of course, maybe that's equality on the women's side. But here's the thing: as soon as I attack you with the definition or ask, which is an attack to you, oh, I'm good, I'm fine. Okay, this literally destroys your whole argument. And it's like, definitionally, what are we talking about here? This is the same thing that you ran from the whole 20-minute debate.
There's one more thing I'd like to say. There was a point when he started going to some kind of hypotheticals and you didn't want to engage with the hypotheticals. And then you kind of engage after the fact with the hypotheticals. One of the things we were talking about is if you're going to have a hypothetical and you need to make some kind of concession, sometimes it's just better to go on, take the concession, and just move forward. Because the hypothetical was kind of dumb. I don't know if you remember the hypothetical, but I can refresh it if you don't.
Yeah, it's the pool. If your friend dies if your friend's in the pool and he's drowning and you don't do anything, it was something in relation to this. And